Alrighty, here we go. It's an absolute special. We did promise you at the start of finals week that we'd have a lot more content for you guys. We're going to deliver. We're doing our first ever review show. We're going to actually do this as the podcast, but the boys been at the game today. They're still pumped up, and they go, "No, we've got to go live for this one. We've got to make sure we go ahead
We're doing it
and
live.
get this live."
Hang on. I'm not
So,
pumped up. I'm not pumped up. I was, yeah.
I mean, to be at that game and to be at that atmosphere, it would have been hard to not be at least into it. It was just like the game itself was just rugby league personified for mine, and just an amazing game to watch at TV. I would hate to have seen. Oh, I'm jealous of what it was like actually being there. So, look, we're going to go quickly just through the games, probably go for about 20, 30 minutes. So I won't go for too long. So if you do have comments or want to get involved, make sure you're getting quick and don't hesitate. More that get involved, the better. But finals week one footy, how good. We've got to go all the way back, boys. I know there's a lot that's happened today, but we've got to try and push our minds back to Friday night. The Brisbane Broncos, far too for the Melbourne Storm. I thought it was a great round performance from the Brisbane Broncos. And before we get to talk about Saturday's games, I thought the Broncos really flexed their muscles and just showed that they're a step above a lot of these teams in this final series. And there may be one or two that might be able to go with them, but players like Walsh, Carrigan, the list goes on. Reynolds was fantastic. Haas as well. I'll go to you, Adam, first. What do you make of the Friday game?
Yeah, I thought Melbourne were average. I'll start out first of all. I thought it was a very un-Melbourne performance and a very un-Melbourne finals performance, to say that as well. We know they're usually a team that can get up for finals. They very rarely have a bad finals game. I think the last time they did was 2019. They struggled in week one. Obviously, last year they got beat as well. But to be, in that top four, I think it's a bit of genius by Brisbane as well. I just want to highlight the week before. Brisbane rested players against Melbourne, giving them the opportunity to play Melbourne again. I know Melbourne rested players too, but the fact that they obviously got to see a bit of the game plan, went in a bit of confidence against Melbourne. I'm saying Melbourne went in a bit of confidence against Brisbane. Brisbane has come out and just wiped them away. I thought, look, I had Brisbane to go out in straight sets. So that's obviously not going to happen. So I was wrong. It's a hard one now. I want to say Melbourne could do that now with the injury toll, but what I will say is Melbourne are a very hard team to obviously play in Melbourne in week two of the finals, and I speak from experience. It doesn't always end well for your team.
No, it doesn't at all. Jez, what do you make of your first thoughts of the Friday game?
Brisbane just bashed them, absolutely bashed them. Every contest, every tackle, every hit up, Brisbane just seemed to have 20 kilos on the bloke. Obviously, our thoughts go out to Ryan Pappenhausen. The game just stopped when that happened, and even you could see every single fan that is a rugby league fan stopped in their tracks as well. It's just so unfortunate for that to happen, but in a way, it kind of summed up Melbourne's night. They got bashed.
Yeah, they did, and the thing that gets to me as well, and what was that?
You're a bit glitchy. You're popping in and out on us. It's your turn.
You might be overseas.
Oh,
it's your turn.
That delay.
I don't know what's
just
going
talking.
on,
It's
but hopefully
right.
it kicks in.
Right.
No idea.
It's Sunday night. Everyone's had a big weekend. No one's going to know it's a glitchy, Joel.
And no, Andrew, my heart is not okay.
Right. No,
I was shaking.
Continue,
still
Joel.
recovering from it, but yeah, as you said, I was interested in the whole Ryan Pappenhausen thing, and I personally thought, if he didn't start, come on after about 20 minutes or so, and basically they needed him the way the Storm were going. They needed someone to really kick him into gear, and as you said, Jez, it was so unfortunate to see him go down, and in a way, like, the dust has settled, and I sort of feel like that's Melbourne Storm's finals campaign done as well, because they need him more than ever to get that X factor. Because I think we saw once again on the weekend was Munster basically was non-existent for mine. I was pretty critical of him throughout the year and said he's been quite not himself, and it's not the Munster we've known and like to watch and rise to the big stage. And I just thought, I know a lot of people said that they were bash out of the game and things like that, which they were. The Broncos played at another level, and I don't think many teams have played at that level all year. But the fact that they didn't have any of this sort of the X factor. Munster didn't step up and not just provide something with the ball in hand, but he always does something off the ball as well. He's always there with the energy and pumping his teammates up, and he just hasn't seemed to have that energy at the moment. I am concerned, as Adam pointed out, that the Melbourne Storm will actually be bundled out next week, but they're fortunate that they're going to be versing a Roosters side that's quite down on troops themselves. So, Adam, is there hope for the Storm? Can they turn this around with the quality of players that they have? I look at it and I think the amount of footy that a lot of their players have played over the last year or two is probably starting to catch up to them a bit.
Yeah, look, we obviously spoke about that with some other teams as well. But the biggest thing for me with Melbourne is you can never count them out. I've got a lot of hated clubs, as we know, but they're up there with they're up there with my most hated club, given obviously cheating history and things that happened over the years and the fact we kept getting bundled out in there. But the coach they have and obviously the champion of players they have, look back at Origin in what year was it? It was one of the years where Munster just absolutely stepped up and cast to pieces, and they were given no chance, really. They said they had no chance of winning it, and Munster obviously cast to pieces. So Munster's been poor this year. They've also got injuries. So look, Pappenhausen, although it's a sad loss, and like I said, we all feel that, it's not a huge loss for him because they haven't played with him all year. It's not like he'd been there all year. And given the fact that obviously the spine they've got going forward will still remain the same they've used all year, it's probably a bit better for them. I think Meany underperformed a bit once Pappenhausen come back, getting thrown around, and the fact Pappenhausen was playing in the middle obviously threw off their forward rotation as well. So, I don't know. I think if there's ever a time to beat Melbourne in Melbourne for a team, this is it. Momentum is a funny thing in footy, as I constantly said, so the Roosters are a chance, but you'd never go down there confident, would you?
No, honestly, after watching that as well, I think the Broncos for mine are the premiership favourites. It's a big call to make. I just like what they've got overall on the football field. I know there's Penrith lurking in the background and you can never count them out, but I've got the Broncos right up there now. Jez, am I wrong for saying I feel like the Broncos are the new team to beat?
No, you're absolutely right. The way that they performed against Melbourne, but even just the season leading up to it, like Adam talks about momentum, but also it's the systems that are in place. And when you have a look at their team, they've consistently put the same team on the field, and the games that they are putting together, it's really convincing. So especially after that performance and the intensity that they came out, if they bring that for the rest of the final series, they win it. No question about it. The way that they played, the intensity, and I keep going on about the collisions, but you could hear it through the television. They were bashing those blokes. So, they're definitely the team to beat at the moment for sure.
Let's be honest.
As Adam said, you can't write Melbourne off. You can't write Melbourne off, especially in Melbourne. Coming up a Roosters team who have not, yes, they have the momentum, but when you think about their season, you wouldn't back them. And I know that Melbourne have had their injuries, the Pappenhausen thing is going to hit them, but you'd also like to think they're going to get a rocket sent up them this week and they're going to come out firing in the home crowd.
Yeah. The thing with that side of the draw is, I think it's a making up the numbers, to be honest. I don't think Melbourne, with the injuries and the way they're playing, or the Roosters, who have pretty much had to be up and playing final football, I don't think either of them beat Penrith. So for me now, it's who plays Penrith in the grand final. And look, I think the Warriors will get the job done next week just because of the New Zealand factor. But I don't know if the Warriors can beat Brisbane in Brisbane after a well-rested Brisbane as well. So I think our top two could finally be our grand final for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I think you're right. Just quickly touch on what Andrew just talked about with the Harry Green incident and Paddy Carrigan. And it was obviously
it was so funny.
It was a nothing incident, but for mine, what it meant, it was the Broncos actually finally standing up to the Storm. We all heard about the hoodoo going into the game and how they just can't beat Melbourne at Suncorp. It was like one of those moments where they're just going, you know what? They've obviously pre-planned that as well. I reckon as soon as someone was niggly to them, they were all just going to stop because it wasn't just one. It felt like the whole team was in there within about 2 or 3 seconds. And it was like, no, hang on, Melbourne, you're not going to do this to us again. We're going to step up here. Now it's on our terms. It's our game and things like that. So I really, really like that. As I said, I really like the Broncos. And I think Reynolds, don't sleep on Reynolds. I think a lot of people have forgotten about him and how good he is at controlling a game. And he's the perfect foil for that Brisbane side. And we saw little things like that drop out. He got back for the Broncos against the Storm was just so good. But let's talk about the other team that is obviously the other team to beat as well. And it's probably a 50-50 split at the moment with who people think will win the comp. And that Penrith Panthers, they dismantled the Warriors 32-6 in a weird way. I actually think the Warriors can hold their heads up from this one. I just feel like with the possession and the balls that the Panthers had, they really did quite well defensively. I know that sounds silly to say after they conceded 32 points, but I thought that scoreline could have got really, really ugly with the way Penrith started that game. And against a lot of teams, it probably would have ended up 50 plus. And the fact that they were able to manage it, I thought was a really good sign for the Warriors moving forward. I don't think they're done for yet, but yeah, now that they don't have to Penrith again until the grand final might be their advantage. But Jez, what did you make of? We'll leave the token Waz fan out first. We'll go to him after this one. But what did you make of the Penrith Panthers?
Yeah, watching that game, you're right. I don't think the scoreline reflected the flow of the game. I thought the Warriors were still very competitive. Their forwards were great. Jackson Ford, I thought, had a really, really impactful game. Aiden Fanua-Blake as well. So it is going to be a really fantastic game next week. So Knights, Warriors over in New Zealand. I don't see them putting up that performance again, coming up against a very informed Knights looking for 11 in a row, but also being over in New Zealand, having that home crowd advantage. It's really what gets teams over the line, especially this late in the season. So no, the scoreline didn't really reflect the game. And I don't think we've seen the last of the Warriors, that's for sure.
No,
Yeah,
I think you're right as well there. Ads,
which is hard to say wearing a Knights shirt after watching the Knights do that today.
And the thing is, I know that they were without Sean Johnson, but I don't think he would have helped too much because the first 2 or 3 tries that Penrith got were off mistakes by the Warriors. So they sort of shot themselves in the foot there for a bit and helped the Penrith Panthers get on the front foot, which we all know don't let Penrith get on the front foot. So Ads?
Yeah, look, I didn't see a lot of the game. I was at the local footy watching the crowd belt the crap out of each other. But what I did see was a very, I'd say, a frustrated Warriors team. Look, let's be honest. Like, I know you said it doesn't make much of a difference, but Sean Johnson's probably going to win the Dally M, which means he'll be the halfback of the year. He's obviously got the Warriors player of the year in all our votes and the actual votes that matter in the Warriors club. So taking him out of the team, they're a different team. Their kicking game, obviously, and the control and experience to run the team around. I think Penrith were that good, what I've seen. I don't think they actually played that good a game. I think it's funny. Everyone always bags out Luai and says that Luai's only there because of Cleary, and, he'd be nothing without Cleary. But I think Cleary is really missing Luai. I think, obviously, Jack Cogger, massive night signing for next year. He's, I love Jack, but he's that kind of fill-in first-grade player. And that's
I was going to say, if Luai is a backup singer, what's Jack Cogger?
He's the choir in the background.
But he's doing harmonies.
Look, I think, we spoke about Luai, weeks ago about what he's worth and all that kind of stuff for clubs. I think his value's gone up the way that the Penrith are actually playing without him. But I don't think they're that impressive. They look a bit clunky. And I said it's kind of more just the fact that the Warriors will just place the triangle. I couldn't even give him a base. They had to give him a triangle. For me, like I said, Penrith, obviously they have the week off. Like I said, they're on the easy side of the draw as I see it. But the Warriors aren't done yet. The Warriors will win next week and they'll book a prelim final against Brisbane. And I'm saying that not on the fact I hate the Knights. I'm saying on the fact that I saw something at Newcastle, and I'll talk about it a bit later. I saw an atmosphere at Newcastle, and it's probably only about, 10 weeks ago, Jeremy was sitting there at the Knights game. I can't remember who they were playing. I think it was the Tigers. It was someone shit. And I said, I remember coming to this place as a Parramatta fan and hating being here every time the chant went up, the atmosphere, what it did and how it got the crowd up. I said, it just doesn't happen anymore because the Knights have sucked for so long. It's like the fans have given up. They've gone on this run. The atmosphere was incredible today. Now, Newcastle have to go from that, where a lot of stuff went their way, obviously besides someone biting someone, and the crowd got them home. The crowd did get them home. They've got to go across to New Zealand, where it's going to be the exact same for the Warriors. They've gone from a game at Penrith where there obviously wasn't that many Warriors there based on the Penrith members and being at Penrith. They now go to either Mount Smart or Eden Park, where there's going to be either 24,500 Warriors fans or 49,500 Warriors fans, depending where they play the game.
Yeah.
Mm.
and they're going to be a very hard team to beat with the whole country behind them.
Hypothetical. Say the Knights do win over in New Zealand. Are they premiership contenders?
Well, anyone that beats anyone and gets a prelim is. They've got 1 in 4 chance. But
No, but in saying that, like, if they go over to New Zealand and they beat them in New Zealand, are they a genuine premiership contender?
My worry is, and I had the Knights, honestly, Jez, before the final started. They were in my rankings. They were third in the power rankings for mine going into the finals. I actually had them above teams like the Storm, who I know you guys are still going. You can't write them off, but I've actually written the Storm off. I wrote them off a few weeks ago. I haven't liked the way they're playing their footy for a lot of this year.
I do that for
think they're the
karma, though,
Storm
Joel.
of the
I don't want to
so-
upset the status quo.
Yeah.
don't.
That's all right. What I was worried about, the only thing I was worried about today was the fact that you've got to verse a Raiders side missing their 2 key big men, and I saw them still get over you guys, especially early on in the middle. And for mine, that should have been your bread and butter, I guess, for like players like Adam Elliott and stuff like that. That should have just been them smashing them. But the fact that you sort of let them stay in the game. Like, it was a finals game. Obviously, it was going to be a lot closer, and everyone was saying, yeah, they'll smash them by 20. It was never going to be the case. Finals elimination games are always different, but I just would have liked you guys to probably put that game away a bit earlier than you actually did in the end, and not go to the extra time and things like that. So, I still think if you can go over there and win it, that is huge. But then, as you both just count on, that's going to be now 2 weeks in a row of massive games going back to back. Then you got to do it again, going up to Suncorp Stadium and getting that done. So, yeah, it's tough.
I'll highlight more of my thoughts on the Knights game when we talk about that. But what I will say is, I'll stick to what I said at the start of the finals. I don't think any team this year can win the comp from outside the top 4, just for the fact of where they've got to play and the travel.
Yeah.
Like, we've got a Roosters team now going to Melbourne, and then they're going to have to come up here and play Penrith. We don't know where that game's going to be. Will it be at Penrith? Will it be at Combank? Obviously, there's dramas. It won't be at Allianz. It could be at Call. But look at the night side of it. Obviously, if them contenders to go from Newcastle to New Zealand
and
Brisbane, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare for any team. I'd be saying that if it was my team as well. In saying that, we were given no chance last year to go to Townsville and beat the Cowboys in Townsville. But we had a home game the week before, which kind of helped as well. So it's a hard one, but I guess we'll talk about it. Time will tell. Yeah.
Let's talk about the first elimination game. So the Cronulla Sharks are gone. We always like to bring back the gone when we can. I don't know. Honestly, we would talk about a team that how did they lose that? Honestly, how the hell the Sharks lost that is probably down to the fact of what we have spoken about with the Sharks in previous episodes and things like that. It all came back to bite them all at once, and the Roosters were down 2 of their best players completely off the field for half the game. Then Tedesco was gone for 10 minutes in a sin bin. He didn't even need to make the tackle because the bloke right behind him was onside and was literally about to make the tackle anyway. So it was a moment of stupidity. I think when it first happened, he would have been shooting himself in the foot going, what have I just done? Like, absolutely G up. But the Roosters are still going. The form, we said it before this game, that form would probably be the thing that got the Roosters home. And the fact they just know how to win at the moment, the Roosters, is what's getting them done. And I know they're going to be without a few players for this Melbourne game, but as I said, Melbourne just aren't Melbourne for mine. I actually do give the Roosters a shot. Hines, we can talk about it all, but I'll get your thoughts first on this game, boys. Adam, Sharks gone, Roosters survive, 1 point in it, field goals by Sammy Walker.
Well, I love seeing Sam Walker, as I said the week before, obviously going well. I had the Roosters win this game. It was my prediction. I thought they'd win this game. I never saw Cronulla as a premiership threat. I think they were lucky to get there playing some teams at the right time of year and a bit of an easier run as well. So, look, I hate the Roosters as well. Probably don't hate them as much as other teams, but like I said, it's momentum. They got the job done. They've obviously got a lot of strike in their team. Let's be honest, I saw bits of this game. I was kind of watching tries and stuff in the end, but I was a little bit occupied last night and just decided to kind of have it on there in the background, watching it at the pub. So, but for me, I think, You're right. Well, we'll talk about Hines. We're going to talk about Hines. Cronulla need to make some hard choices. I don't think he's a half. I think he's a fullback. It could be a 5'8" if they play him like a fullback, but yeah, like I said, that's finals. What they didn't. They went out in straight sets last year. They've gone out again. We got Dalian Player of the Year, but a lot of that comes back on your halfback and your controlling player.
Yeah, Jez, thoughts on this one before we get stuck into the Sharks and the changes I think they need to make?
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I found it a hard game to watch. I think out of all the ones this weekend, this is the one that I scrolled on my phone the most. I don't know. There was no atmosphere. I know it was at Shark Park, but it was a construction site, and that in itself is just a mockery to the game.
Hey, you've turned around. You turned around from last week. Last week you liked it.
Yeah, but then I watched it and I went, "This sucks." And then I don't know, just Nicho Hines. He's not a half. The Sharks are missing that X factor player, and he can be. He's just not in the right position, which we'll probably go on about for the next 5 minutes. It's nice to see Sam Walker ice a game, as I think he did it. Did he do it last year in a prelim? Not a prelim, but I think he did it last year in the semis. He iced the game for them. So it's look, as I said, out of the games this weekend, this is the one that I found just a little bit boring. But good on the Roosters.
Look, there's a couple of comments in here about the Sharks and decision-making costume and things like that, and it goes to the point where I want to make, and there's comments come in for and against already because I know we're about to talk about him and Nicho Hines. They've obviously seen posts that I've personally made over the few weeks and that as well about him, and we've talked openly about it a number of times. It's not the fact that we don't rate Nicho Hines.
Did he pick on you at school?
I really like Nicho Hines, and I like him as a player. But my thing is,
I like him as a person. I think he's great.
He was better than me at football.
My problem with Nicho is Sharks.
So you have a problem with Nicho?
Oh,
you do have
not with. Honestly, we're trying to talk some footy. We've got to get through this quickly, and you want to just talk. Let's. How many drinks did you have today?
I drove. I haven't touched a thing. We're on the dry hill. Thank you very much. We were on the dry hill. Just
that natural Waz energy is just coming through still. But look, the point I want to say is this: the Sharks needed not the X factor. I think they needed a genuine organising player there, playmaker, and. Now, 2 years in a row in key finals games, it hasn't happened for them, and they haven't been able to get it done when they should have. And they've got an absolutely abysmal record the last probably 2 years against top 8 sides. That wouldn't be there if they had someone like an Adam Reynolds there or that sort of a halfback. Even someone mentioned like Jamal Fogarty would be perfect for Nicho Hines to run off, whether it's 5'8" or fullback. I just want to see him get away from the 7 jersey because he's not that natural organizer. He's come through his junior career with that playing 5'8" or fullback in the back line, things like that. He's just never been that actual proper halfback. And it's no fault of Nicho. As I just said, I think he's on his day, he's one of the best players in the game and one of the best players to watch. There's no denying that. But the Sharks need that extra organizer who's literally going to be getting in from point A to point B. Like we saw last night, when they're on the line with the minute to go with Tedesco still in the sin bin, if they went left to Nicho's side, they probably scored. They would have easily probably got the overlap, off they go score, but the hooker went the other way. If that wasn't Adam Reynolds sitting there yelling for the ball, I guarantee you the hooker passes him the ball. There's just some stuff going on there that he's obviously doesn't have the calls on that properly, but it's not just that. I don't think Talakai is in the centre either. I think Talakai needs to go to the bench and become a forward rotation. And I think the forward pack at the Sharks for mine are all too similar of a style player. They've all just seemed like they're a clone of each other. They need to mix some things up there. It just feels like something's missing at the Sharks.
Too much weight on Nicho Hines' shoulders, I think, as well. Like they've put the whole club on him to make sure that they do well. And that's just so much pressure when you haven't got the blokes around you. Like that's such a big ask. Sorry, Adam.
It's the pressure of that. It's like I said, it's the pressure, yes, but it's also the fact that he's their big signing. He got the Dalian Player of the Year last year. So the fact they've kept the 7 jersey on him It doesn't matter if he wears a 7, the 6, the 1. If he's going to be involved in the halves and their set plays in any way, they're going to expect him to do stuff based on what he did last year and the fact that he is the best player in the game last year. So for me, it would make a difference if Nico wore 6 and Trindle wore 7. Trindle's never going to get control of that team unless it's something they go work on in the off-season. So simple as this. They need to sign a half to come in who is well known at controlling a team. And look, there probably isn't that many around. Like off the top of my head, the only controlling halves I can think of are Reynolds, Cleary, Moses, and Cherry Evans. Like look at the other halves, like other halves in the teams. Like Munster controls Melbourne. He's a 5'8". Obviously, they kind of share that pretty well. You go through all your other teams, it's pretty evenly split. So if they're not going to do that, they really need to turn around, obviously, and work in that off-season about control of the team. And we've seen other teams have this issue. We've seen other teams have this issue in the fact that, look at the Roosters. The reason the Roosters struggled last year and this year is because they couldn't find the balance with Sam Walker and Luke Keary. They seem to have found it now. So it could take time for Cronulla. I don't think they'll move Nico to fullback because Will Kennedy's a pretty good fullback. I think he'll play 5'8". Trindle plays 7. And even if he doesn't, if he stays at 7 and Trindle stays at 6, then they just need to find that control and work out who's actually running the team. And if they're doing it together, then obviously they need to find the balance and get it perfect, or they'll just keep bombing out like they are.
Yep, I think you're smacking on the head right there. And let's talk about, obviously, the game today. Obviously, it's the one that Jez wants to talk about the most. And
can we show the video first? Can we show the video?
Let's show the video. Obviously, everyone knows so far Jez's real gripe with his club this year has been the goal kicking factor, and you probably bet your bottom dollar he was absolutely chuffed with today's efforts.
This is the highlight of the game. First of all, Jeremy didn't know what I was filming. Jeremy thought I was filming the cheerleaders, which is just,
I warned him. I was like, the people behind you can see your screen, I
was like, I'm not filming that, Jeremy. So if we just push play, we see Carlton Ponga now one from the sideline.
About time.
And this is probably the biggest clap that Jeremy did all day because he nailed one from the sideline. Now, he nailed the first one from the sideline as well, and he went absolutely off on that one as well, so I had to pull the camera out. So, obviously, that was the highlight. Look, the Knights won a game by a goal kick, Jeremy, so you got to be happy.
Mate, if he didn't kick them, we lose. Simple as that.
I think, honestly, there was times of this game when I was sitting there watching, I thought we'd still be watching this game right now. So I'm glad it's over with. I'm actually glad for the players' sake. It's done in the fans' sake, because I could have put myself in your shoes, and you would have been on the edge of your seat the whole time, or at the edge of the hill where you were. So what do you make of your team? You can have the floor here. What do you make of the Knights? It's obviously a great victory.
Yeah, look, another sellout crowd. It was lovely. Like, I had my mum and my dad there, and my older sister and her young fella. Then 2 mates sitting beside me. One passionate Knights fan, the other a reluctant participant in the day, but was going for the referees. No, it was just the crowd itself and the atmosphere. As Adam spoke about before, the Newcastle chant going up for defensive things. So our defense, especially in that first half, because Canberra were bashing us. They were all over us. They pinned us down in our halves. We couldn't get a kick out. And the best thing that happened to the Knights was halftime, because we were in all sorts. We were scrambling. 2 of their tries came from errors. So it was the knock on from Gagai, which I just watched the Matty John show, and they gave, like, Sam Burgess gave him a big rap. They obviously didn't watch the whole game because he was full of errors. He did some hard yards out of their own half, but he had a shocker. And then the other one was from the short dropout, which, surprise, surprise, we didn't do again because they're rubbish. Then the half time comes and we finally decided to play football. So we can thank Jack Whiten or Jack Byton for firing up the crowd, because the crowd were taken out of it. The way that Canberra pinned us down in our half, the crowd were taken out of the game. Jack Whiten bites Gamble on the arm, only gets put on report, which, you've seen send-offs for that before. But then what that did was brought the 30,000 people that were there back into the game. We score 3 in a row, and that was electric. It was a bit sad towards the end there that it was either just laziness or they're the worries that you're looking at for next week. We conceded a few tries towards the end, but man, my heart rate, as Adam can happily contest. Like I was shaking. I was shaking, not just because I was cold, but because of that finish. It was, wow. Yeah, well, you can't sell out, as Adam pointed out last week. Police actually cap it.
Yeah, I do.
It's 30,000.
I do. All right, you want my
Anyway,
views?
it was fantastic. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I've got some.
Go on, Adam, you were there.
Me and Jeremy already had a debrief on the way home. I was stuck in frigging traffic. It doesn't happen when you go to Jets games. So I'm just putting that out there. Newcastle bandwagon in full swing. Give me a Jets game anytime. But look, Newcastle are a shit team. I mean that, and I've said this to Jeremy as well. Like their 5'8" is a reserve grader. Their halfback's a Super League player, and their hooker's a 5'8" player in their position. The problem Newcastle did was the first half of the game, they went back to playing the style they played for the first 13 rounds of the year, where they were a shit team. After round 14 or whatever it was, Ponga started playing well. They started playing a bit more entertaining football, a bit more upbeat football, and got on the back of some momentum and went on with it. They reminded me a lot of Parramatta into the 2009 grand final. They went out and tried to play structured football, and it just didn't work for them. If Canberra were any good, the game would have been over at halftime. They could have put 30 on Newcastle because Newcastle were just ordinary. The fact they didn't, they got a couple of lucky, what they call tinny kind of tries. Just kind of shows where Canberra was one. I think Canberra really deserved to be there.
No, they didn't.
It's hard. Canberra probably the better team for 60 minutes with their aggression. They go up and absolutely smack the crap out of Newcastle, but they just couldn't ice their opportunities. And once Newcastle got themselves a bit more in the game, Canberra just kind of didn't seem to have much. Like a bit of razzle-dazzle and obviously forced it extra time. But even their field goal setup was disgraceful. Like, I would have loved nothing more than to see Hungry Jack whack over a field goal at the end there. Because I know he would have given it the crowd. This would have set the crowd off. Would have been great for a neutral. Yeah. So, but I don't know, like Jeremy said, but Newcastle were gone. The crowd was dead. It was quiet as nothing was really happening. And all of a sudden, the biting incident happened, which, look, I've watched it back. I've seen a couple of photos. I think
hang on. Don't go to it yet. We're getting to it. We're getting to it. So okay. Debrief first, then get into the big talk.
You've got to, Adam, you've got to shout out because you're saying it the whole game. The ex-Newcastle players that were playing for Canberra, they were amazing. They were all heart and soul.
One of the biggest reasons people don't realize, one of the biggest reasons I hate Newcastle isn't because I live here and I don't support them. It's because, playing footy at younger, I've seen a lot of kids that should have got opportunities at the Knights that didn't get given opportunities because Newcastle don't really appreciate what they've got in their own backyard. Even looking at that Knights team, there's not that many local juniors in there. There was Tom Starling, Zach Wolford, not a junior, but he has obviously played at Newcastle. Hudson Young, Joseph Tarpany, and Passaman Sai. They're all juniors of the area playing for Canberra. And they lifted.
And they were their best players.
Yeah, exactly right. So,
took a personal.
Yeah.
They took a personal.
Missing the badge after he scored the try.
Yeah, Tom Starling. Yeah, that was great. Yeah. But like I said this to Jeremy at the game. I said, and this was what was it, 28 all, probably a bit more. I said, I don't care who wins this game. I don't think they can win next week because they were fucking belting the shit out of each other. Like, it was an aggressive game of football. It was a good game of football to watch as a neutral. I was just a bit disappointed that the game ended with a penalty. And he was offside. There's no doubt he was offside.
Oh, massive.
But so was Tyson Gamble off the field goal attempts by Jamal Fogarty. And it's something that happens every week.
And so was Keary on the Roosters charge down in the Sharks game. Right.
It's something that happens every week. But if we're going to referee the game by the rule books, it needs to obviously be called up. You can't just pick and choose because I can guarantee this much: he would not have had the balls to blow that. He would not have had the balls to blow that penalty at Canberra. I want a try score because the game deserved a try.
I think what happened there though was he got himself sort of backed into a corner, the referee, because he originally said 6 to go, and because there was a mistake in that same play by the Knights, he had no other choice but to call it a penalty in the end. So it was kind of like, it wasn't like he said penalty straight away. It was the fact that there was an infringement in the same play that his sort of hand was forced. But one thing on the Knights, and I obviously said sort of a bit of mine already about them and the fact that they kept the Knights in it, but the Raiders in it. I thought the Raiders played exactly how we all knew the Raiders would come out and play. And I think if anything, I know O'Brien hasn't had any pressure on him because of the win streak, but in the back of my mind, I sort of question that, and I say to Adam O'Brien, sort of, where was your your plan about this? Because you knew what the Raiders were going to throw at you. You had all week to plan it and maybe change it and put some other players on who would be able to fight fire with fire, but you sort of didn't, and you allowed them to get on the front foot early, which in finals we all know he's dangerous. And I think you're lucky that Ponga decided to switch it on and go see you later a few times and got the Knights out of trouble there. But that could have easily, that game stayed with the Raiders. And if it wasn't for Jack Whiten's biting incident, which I reckon Ricky privately would probably be fuming over, because as you've all said now, it literally changed the momentum. The Raiders probably go on and win that game if that biting incident didn't happen, because the Raiders were successful with getting the Knights crowd out of it, which was always going to be the hardest part for them. That had finally done it, and then all of a sudden, only like a few minutes into the second half, it's like they were winning the game. You guys were winning the game by 20, and you were still behind by 10 points. So it was a crazy decision. Just quickly, I want to say as well, the whole Jackson Hastings thing now looks like he's out, done for the year. He won't be back. I don't think that's the worst thing though. I think Adam Clune was quite a good option there for the last few weeks and has really balanced the side well, and probably really been a good foil for Ponga to do what he does. So I don't think it's all over there for the Knights. I think it's going to be hard, but they can go over there and do a job against the Warriors. But let's quickly talk about Jack Byton.
Yeah, before you say that, before you go to Hungry Jack, Jackson Hastings going out of the game won Newcastle the game because Ponga wasn't involved in the first half, and he was obviously injured. You could see he was obviously injured. He wasn't really...
Grade 1 carry on, as we gave him live.
Hastings, the fact he got up, but Ponga, he wasn't getting involved, obviously, with that injury. The fact he was kind of forced, and look, I'll say this too, from Adam O'Brien, it's pretty genius. Obviously, Kurt Mann, like we all thought he put Crosland to 5'8", man, hooker or something, but he obviously, Mann was kind of defensively playing as a 5'8", and Ponga was playing as the 5'8", and it got Ponga in the game, and it was pretty genius. Yeah. If Hastings if Hastings stays on the field, I don't think Newcastle win that game. They scored 24 points without their main halfback on the field. It's probably why they've been playing better football with Clune there, because it gives Ponga a bit of control to him. And similar to what we spoke about Hines, Ponga wasn't a 5'8". He's on $1.4 million. He needs to earn that money, and he kind of needs to be controlling that team, and he did. And that's the reason they won the game.
Yep. Well said.
Yep. Let's talk about Jack Byton. We said it single-handedly changed the game for the Raiders, but the fact that he was able to stay on the field, do we agree with that? Should it be a sin bin, send-off, or report was fine?
You go first. You know my opinion.
Look, it's hard because obviously it was against the Knights and I'm a passionate Knights fan, but I just think Proctor was sent off. There was clear bite marks on his arm.
The NRLW, she was sent off as well the other week. So
yep, the NRLW, she was sent off. So was it because it was a semi-final that he didn't get sent off? It was bizarre. Like the crowd didn't know what was going on. We thought there was an injury. And then they showed on the big screen him biting his arm, and then they zoomed in on Gamble's wrist.
Everyone was like,
clear indentation. And we all went, oh, well, he's gone. Like even the Canberra fans in front of us were going, oh no, he's going to get sent. Like we're going to be down. And he just came over and put him on report. So I just think if they're consistent about it, unless the rule has changed and they haven't voiced it, I thought it was a send-off. I'm trying not to say that as a biased Knights fan.
I'm going to let Adam have the final say, so I'll say mine first, is if they had enough time then to go upstairs, they obviously checked it, they went back to Ashley Klein and said, yep, we've seen that there's a bite there, there's clearly marks to his hand or his arm that we were able to see as well. The bite was clearly there. How this isn't a send-off, I have absolutely no idea. Now, you can all talk about the fact that the arm shouldn't be up that high in his face, blah, blah, yep, I get that. But the fact he has gone ahead and bit him, which we know is just an out-and-out no-no, he should have been gone. There is no excuse in the rule book to say he should not have been sent off then. So that is a massive blunder. It's, as you just said, Jez, it's because it's semi-finals footy. I've got no doubt about that. It's ruled differently. It's ref differently. And they would have just said into his ear, look, semi-finals time. Let the judiciary deal with it next week. We'll see what happens. Off we go. And
It'll be
for
interesting
mine,
to see the
if the
fallout.
Raiders had gone and won that, yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know if there'll be much about it. It'd be interesting which club actually defends him at the judiciary, if it's going to be Raiders or South Sydney. So
Or none.
we don't know who's going
None will
to
show up.
turn up for him.
It'll be whatever team he's playing for at the Curry knockout, probably, because if he gets suspended, it won't be hard to play that. But look, I've got a different
the
view.
drum won't be there.
There's a couple of things I want to look at it as. And first of all, I want to go back to the Kevin Proctor one and say the Kevin Proctor one, obviously it was a send-off, but the fallout for that in the 6-week suspension I thought was a bit rough. You can't say someone initially intends to bite in that situation. That's where I'm at. I've seen a photo of Kurt Mann, and it's when they're on the ground. Now,
hang on.
Kurt
You
Mann.
guys weren't there. You didn't hear this
sorry.
part of what happened. So what has actually happened afterwards is Whiten went up to the referee and actually explained to him. He said in his own words, what was I supposed to do when his arm's basically in my mouth?
Yeah.
So he was basically saying and admitting, I did do
Bit
it.
him.
I've quickly come up with my excuse, though. So I think he actually knew for sure what he was doing there.
Do you
and
think
he's decided, holy shit.
Do you think
the
Gamble didn't know
Proctor
what he was
excuse
doing?
was that he couldn't breathe as well. Remember that one?
That was Proctor's.
Yeah.
Do you think Gamble didn't know what he was doing? That's the point I want to make is the photo I've seen before, Whiten's mouth's already open. He's got his hand around here, and there's actually pressure on the back of the head from Gamble pushing him down. So he's actually pushing his head. And I've got the photo. We can upload it later.
You're saying that Gamble gutter stomped him onto his own arm?
He's essentially pushing his head into his own arm. So I agree. What's he meant to do in that situation? Like, the thing I will say is I'm happy that it didn't ruin a good game by being a send-off. But I want these things. There's inconsistency now. There's inconsistency from previous ones, even if you want to look at the NRLW. I'm happy for it to be dealt with at the judiciary. But the question I want to ask is, if they declared that it obviously wasn't biting, they put on a report for biting, but they decided not to send him off, why wasn't it a high shot? Let's be honest. If you want the
wasn't the
rules
contact after he was tackled?
Yeah, but you still can't.
Yeah,
it was rubbish. It's rubbish on the face then.
Mm.
Either way, we missed so much.
You can pull that up every tackle.
That's what I mean. They've watched this back 27 times.
Yeah,
it's what I mean. It's just there's so many inconsistencies, and there's so many inconsistencies when you watch games as a neutral. You really notice inconsistencies in the game at the moment, and that's one of the issues I have with it. I didn't want to be sent off because I didn't want to ruin a game. As I said, if he was sent off, I wouldn't have had a problem based on the previous stuff. But I'm kind of with Jack. Like, what are you meant to do in that situation when a bloke's got the arm around your mouth? Like, even if you're talking, if I'm talking now, my teeth are going into my arm.
He wasn't trying to talk, though. He didn't tackle. Like, I understand your logic. I do understand your logic about not wanting to ruin the game. I do get that. But my whole thing is, don't do the crime then, and you won't have to do the time. Like, could you imagine the actual fallout from this if the Raiders had went on and won this game, knowing that their player should have been sent off with about 38 minutes to go in the game?
That's Jeremy.
It would have been absolutely horrific. I would have hated to see the scenes at Newcastle after the game and stuff, but it would have been toxic as all toxic could get. And I would have actually probably feared for the referees and not that we want anything like that to happen, but it would have been one of those scary sort of scenes because I just, as I said, I said my part, and I just don't get how. And that's that's where the wrestle has gone too far, and the game has let the wrestle go too long now. And this is where it's got to. It's got to this where a player's actually gone out and bit someone and gone, I'm not having this. You're hurting my neck, or you're pressuring my neck. I'm not having this, which you can understand from that point of view. But then the game should go back to themselves and go, well, let this go on for too long. Let's look at ourselves in the mirror and let's fix up this whole wrestle thing, because it's clear it's gone too far. It has gone too far for a number of years now. It's not going to fix itself until there's a massive injury that we've seen in the past with other things that have been canned on the run. So why do we have to wait for an injury to happen? Why can't we just get on the front foot now and go, the wrestler is not good for this game. We want high, free-flowing rugby league that's entertaining, which is the best form of rugby league. So let's do what we can to get it done. But anyway, the Knights got it done. Let's
You missed a very important game. I just want to highlight too. First of all, Luke Gibbons, it's nice to hear from you. I usually don't hear from you in September unless you want me to get your finals tickets. So nice to hear from you. But look, finals week 2, Jersey Flegger, Parramatta 20 over the Cronulla Sharks 6 in the Jersey Flegger. Obviously, look, the future's where it's at. We care about obviously those young teams. It's great to see Parramatta come through, and this is the comp that really matters, to be honest. They booked themselves a date next week with South Sydney at Leichhardt Oval. So it's all that matters. Nothing else matters. It's just all about that, obviously. Yeah.
It's unfortunate that the brightest star is actually already going and leaving to another club next year anyway. So the future doesn't. But we're losing one of the brightest stars. So let's just live for the now at the moment and let's enjoy a little victory hopefully next weekend. But enjoy. We'll be back, I think, probably Wednesday at this stage. We'll have a chat and work out the best time frame. But for our live Talking Points show, we'll talk a bit more, obviously, the fallout of the biting. We'll preview the 2 games coming up. Can't wait. We'll let Jez calm down after tonight and have a shower, debrief himself, and we'll come back and just see why the Knights can beat the Warriors. So have a look at the other game as well. And yeah, there'll be it's rugby league. There'll be more fallout in the next couple of days. Plenty more Talking Points. So once again, thank you for the support. We do appreciate it. If you haven't already, go and look for the hats. It's available in white and navy blue as well. Enjoy your week, guys. Finals week 1 was fantastic.
Speaking of the merch, I heard you're going to collab with a certain North Queensland player and do some League of Inches celebratory bags. No?
Yeah, we'll be talking about
that. We'll talk about that Wednesday.
Wednesday. This has already gone way too long, this episode, so we will get to that Wednesday.
Come on, guys. I meant backpacks.
Shout out Val Holmes. We all know it was a prank.